Hey there, you're listening to the Not So Breakfast Show with Sasha and Ish. Alright, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today. The one about mitigating risk. How do we reduce the risk in our personal lives and in our businesses as well? Plus, if I ever go missing, can someone just remember this show?
So if you go, well, when I can't sleep, I do this exercise where I just kill everyone in our team. I mean, I've creative ways of how they die. I don't mean I've killed them. I mean something happens to them.
Yeah. And I'll just apologise now. Absolutely.
And I have to go and poo into their water supply.
Exactly. I like how you went straight.
Is that wrong?
To pooing in the water. Water supply. Alright, that's the show. Let's get it. Alright, welcome to the Not So Breakfast Show today, and this is the one about mitigating risk. We're going to look at some risk factors in your personal life and business. And how do we just kind of put some contingency plans in place? Because, Sasha, stuff happens, doesn't it?
Oh my goodness, yes it does. And just today I have not minimized and mitigated my risk and I'm suffering. So I ordered at this coffee shop, which will remain nameless, I ordered a long Mac.
Right.
Mac starts with an M. Macchiato. So a long macchiato is like a long black, but the Mac bit means you put a bit of milk in it. So I had mine with an oat milk foamy top. Fantastic. So I ordered my coffee, got it in my Frank Green neon cup, which you can get at shopcoffeeculture.co.nz. Amazing.
Plug.
Amazing. And I set it on my desk and I left it for about 10 minutes so it would be just the perfect temperature. And then I was ready to drink it, so I just pushed down the lid and I took a massive swig of it, and straight away I thought the roof of my mouth is going to peel off. It was so hot and I faced this dilemma because it was in my mouth, and as my mouth is burning, I'm like, I've got to get it out of my mouth. The only option is to either burn my entire throat and esophagus and stomach lining, or I have to spit it out. And I was literally in a meeting. And so with no decorum whatsoever, I spat it out all over the floor. And so then I had to apologise and say, guys, I'm so sorry, but I think I'm getting 3rd-degree burns on my mouth. So then I had to wipe up all this coffee, spit off the floor, apologise, and so I don't need to go to the doctor because I've Googled what I need to do, and I've just spent the rest of the day with ice in my mouth, and everything's going to be okay. But that was a really good example of just not de-risking the situation. I can't remember the last time I didn't have a gentle sip first, and that's what I needed to do. And the coffee shop, of course, I'll be going back there because it's a coffee shop that I happen to own. And it was so, yeah, we're going to have some staff training. So I want to hear about risk. Tell me how to de-risk.
What you should have done is realize I'm spitting it out and just gone full. Spit it out, blow your lips, and then smack your hands on the table and go, this is bullshit. Just stomp out of the meeting. They'll be going, what? Who said what? What did you say?
So I'm very keen to talk about this idea of we have personal risk, we have professional risk, and what can we do to mitigate and minimize it? You are the expert here, and I'm looking forward to learning from you today.
Well, we're going to be pulling some of the content out of a session I did for the personal trainer breakfast at the FitX conference in New Zealand. And I said at the start of my presentation, I find it really interesting because I think this is probably the 3rd or 4th time I've talked about the topic. So I remember specifically talking about it in the financial crisis and the pressure that put on the economy, because in our industry, personal trainers were losing clients hand over fist, members were dropping out of gyms. I remember talking about it after the earthquake and all the effects that had on our industry. And here I was again talking about it in, what should we call it, mid-COVID, and really looking at risk mitigation and ways to start to look at where maybe your personal risk is and how to understand that risk is always going to be coming. Like the next thing is on its way. It's how prepared are you for that? next time it happens? Can you take the learnings from what's happening now and apply it to a future situation? Because that puts you in a very different position to the person that's literally had their head in the sand. I hope this doesn't happen again, or I hope something like this doesn't happen again, and yet it does. And then all of a sudden we're just scrambling, as opposed to the person that's prepared, that can surf the wave and ride the new opportunity that comes out of every single event that happens, as every industry that we work in reinvents itself. So I started off with 3 questions. Question number 1 is just to kind of get you thinking about your industry. But what does it take to be successful in your industry? So obviously this question was, what does it take to be successful in the fitness industry? This is really unpacking your understanding around what makes you successful, or what makes an industry successful. Because we kind of touched on this a little bit the other day. Sometimes what we perceive as being the thing that obviously makes someone successful is not necessarily the case. So this is switching on your levels of awareness. So in the fitness industry, someone might say, well, you need to be charismatic, and you need to be able to, get someone a result, and you need to be a fun place to be. And yes, you have to do all those things, but that's also kind of the price of entry of operating in the fitness industry. I don't go into coffee culture and then go, oh, you guys have coffee here as well? I wasn't expecting that. Let alone the world's hottest macchiato. But yeah.
You want it hot?
Yeah.
How hot? You can't handle the hot.
So that's just the price of entry of running a coffee shop, is having a great cup of coffee. So there's more things that you may want to start to explore even within your industry.
So I think one of the interesting things to come out of this is how we conceive of things is often not true. So let me give you this example. I was thinking about this whole concept of working from home and how many people are working from home now during COVID. And a few years ago, one of my team members came to me and said, how would you feel if I worked from home a bit? I've got a long commute, and there's a lot of stuff that I could get done because the office is really noisy and it's a bit disruptive. And I just said, well, no, because how we work is we work together, and we're collaborative, and we're teamsy. And this person said, yeah, but we had Zoom then. Zoom was a thing. We can call each other. And I was still like, because my idea of productivity was, if I haven't got eyes on you, how do I know you're doing anything? Because if I can see you sitting at your desk, even if I can't see what you're doing on your screen, which may or may not be work, I still have this feeling that everyone's at work today. It's going to be a good day today. Not long after that question was asked, COVID struck. And so I say to all my team members, hey guys, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to work from home. And she quite rightly said, oh no, I can't work from home because it's not possible. You've already said that if I was working from home, how would you know that I was working? And the only work that's of any value is when we're all in the same room. And I was like, oh, touche, nice point, baby. You got me. You're playing masterful chess. And so what the crisis does is it forces us to reconsider actually what is the most important thing about our working environment, or what is the most important thing that we sell? What are people actually buying? So for coffee culture, we say it's all about the experience, and that's true. But when people are not allowed to come into the experience, we very quickly want to talk about the quality of our core coffee product. And by the way, we want to show you how you can make it at home. And then you start to go, well, hang on, that's a whole nother opportunity for us, is to sell more coffee to people in their homes, as well as once COVID is over, or it's a little bit safer, or vaccination rates increase, now you can come back safely in store. And I love this idea that we should either disrupt ourselves or someone else will disrupt us. I wonder, Ish, I know you've got specific fitness industry experience, but I love the example of the companies who were already doing stuff digitally that meant when their physical business shut down, they were ready to go, versus the companies who just had not they said the digital revolution is not for us. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think you've got two types of businesses there. One, you've got the business that was already doing digital. So Les Mills, for example, was doing Les Mills on demand, already doing digital, which allowed us to pivot to at home and have people training online at home. So keeping the discipline of fitness and having a product that people could then engage with.
Yeah, but wasn't part of the competitive advantage there that you could pivot quickly?
Yeah.
You were there already. So it wasn't like you had to build this whole new thing. You were ready to go.
So then a lot of other gyms were fighting to try and find their digital and be able to pivot online. It took them a lot longer, whereas we were able to do that really quickly. But then subsequently, you also have a few businesses that did it for a while and then stopped and then just went back to BAU. And then when we went back into lockdown, a harder lockdown, suddenly they were scrambling again to try to get back online because they hadn't maintained the discipline with their clients. They hadn't maintained a product. So some businesses learnt to ride the new opportunity and go, this is the reality now. We now have this new market that is at home. We have our current market, which is live face-to-face. And we're going to work with that hybrid from now on, as opposed to the gym that basically went, oh, okay, so we've done that now, we're not going to do it. Or the gym that just survived and still didn't do it, and then suddenly went through exactly the same thing again, going, oh, we probably should have done it the first time.
So the first question that you asked, just remind us again of what that was.
So what does it take to be successful in your industry? And it gives you a level of awareness to really kind of understand what the second question is, which is, if all your clients left you tomorrow, how long would it take you to rebuild your business? Or if all your customers left you tomorrow, how long would it take you to rebuild your business? And one, it's the answer to the question, but two, it's the understanding of everybody else's answer to the question. So when I asked that of personal trainers, I would get some trainers that say it would take me a couple of weeks. Some trainers would say it would take me a couple of months. Some would say it would take me a year. It would take me a couple of years to get back to where I am. So I'm not saying either of those answers is wrong, but why can some people do it faster than others? And often it's because they understand what it takes to be successful and how to rebuild or do it again.
Yeah, I sometimes challenge myself with the question, what if the research came out that said coffee causes cancer, stop drinking it now?
Yeah.
What would we do?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, we'd change our name. Because we're very clear. There's no such research. It doesn't exist. Perish that thought. But it challenges you to say, outside of what you think your core product is, what is it that people are coming to you for, and how do those skills translate into another environment? And I think this relates. Those of you who are in jobs rather than owning your own business, and personal trainers do own their own businesses, is this idea of, if you got fired tomorrow and the job that you've always done no longer existed, what are the skills that you could take and do something else with? So it's this hideous buzzword of transferable skills. What are your transferable skills? But it's really useful to know. And building on what we talked about last week in terms of the superpower and what you're really good at, is being able to say, and who would that help? Who else wants to pay for that in the marketplace? So that you have some agility. And I was thinking, when you were saying, what if your industry didn't exist anymore? I've got, lots of friends who are lawyers. I've got a couple of friends who are judges. And I'm like, what if you just said, nope, that's not how we dispense justice? What would you do? And there's a whole raft of skills and things that people could do. But part of de-risking is already just actually preparing yourself for inevitable change. And I love this idea that many people find themselves to be victims of change rather than agents of change. And when you're an agent of change, you're able to say, I accept the inevitability of the constant change, and I want to make sure that I'm part of making decisions for myself rather than just rolling around in the washing machine and saying, what the hell is happening to me right now?
Yeah. Sometimes we look at an industry and go, how did you not see that coming? Everybody else saw it coming. Everybody else saw that change. They say that like lawyers, they need to be aware of the fact that artificial intelligence that can determine whether someone is lying or not is going to play a big part of law in the future. Now there's a whole lot of stuff around that and ethical decisions around that, but that technology is definitely on the way. So if you think about taxi drivers, truck drivers, the technology is on the way for self-driving vehicles. They're already here. So
they're called planes.
They're called
planes fly themselves, and we have this illusion where we go, oh, there's 3 people in the cockpit. Okay, so I know that the angry pilots are going to email in now and tell us how important they are. Sure.
But yeah, so all of that stuff is happening, but it's I guess it's the personal choice of when do you jump out of an industry that you know is going to get replaced.
We'll be right back.
If there was one skill that could double your income, advance your career, and increase your ability to influence, it is the skill of presenting. Whether it's on stage, in the boardroom, or at a job interview, the 30-Minute Presenter program will help take you to the next level. So check out our Instagram page, click the link in the bio, and get started on the 30-Minute Presenter program.
Well, I think that so often we see these things clearly in hindsight. So the classic textbook case that everyone talks about is what happened with Kodak and Instagram. So, Kodak had 240,000 employees around the world. So 2007, 2008, sometime around there, where it tipped up. So 240,000 people lost their jobs because the film processing industry just slowly disappeared. And yet Kodak had the patents for digital cameras, but they let those patents lapse because what they continued to tell themselves is we are a film company. We sell film. They didn't understand that essentially what they were was a memories company. We create memories for people and pictorial representations of those. So when Instagram, it was like 18 months after Kodak collapsed that Instagram sold to Facebook. And remember me talking about how much they sold for?
Oh, it's
1 billion New Zealand dollars. Instagram sold to Facebook. How many employees did they have at the time that they sold?
13.
Yeah, 13. 13 employees. So you've got Kodak, this massive global multinational, goes bankrupt, see you later, doesn't exist anymore. 13 kind of tech geek brothers who just hit upon this idea. Wow, incredible. And with hindsight, we all look back and go, Kodak is so stupid. I'd never be as stupid as Kodak. Because we don't see it when we're too close to it ourselves, right? So one of the challenges is when you say, would you get out of an industry that's going to be obsolete, is just to disrupt yourself or innovate yourself or do something that means that you stay relevant. And I think you have to get outside perspectives on this. You have to get people who say, you're too close to it, you can't see it, so I'm going to tell you what's missing. So if you take fitness, because we're all pretty familiar with that. I'm not a Nostradamus, right? At all. And I didn't see him. I'm not pretending I saw anything that happened. I didn't see it coming. But I can say from a consumer perspective, the worst thing about going to the gym is going to the gym. It's the getting in the car, driving there, finding a car park, or it's the getting changed at work and walking down. So the idea that I was doing it on someone else's schedule when it must have been possible to do it at a time that suited me. And so I'm not pretending any kind of, I saw the future. But I think what you've got to do is get out of your headspace that says, I am the person who knows how to sell coffee, and spend time with the people who are consuming it.
Yeah.
And they are the ones that will give you the insight into what a better future looks like.
And I think as we kind of think about these framing questions, so what does it take to be successful in your industry? What if all your clients or your business changed tomorrow? How long would it take you to rebuild your business? Frames up really well for the third question, which is, what would you do different? Assuming those things happen, what would you do differently? And sometimes that is helpful to be able to reflect back and kind of go, well, if I did lose my job tomorrow and I wanted to get back to a similar position, maybe in a different industry based on my current skill set, but what would I do differently? What have I learned that I could allow myself to maybe do it faster or do it in a way that starts to build different skill sets or puts me in a different position financially if I was to get back to this point as well? And really that's where we kind of want to start to explore maybe categories of risk within your personal risk or categories of risk within your business and look at how they might affect you.
Yeah, so what kind of categories are you thinking?
So the categories we talked about for personal training and fitness was where is your risk around your skill set? Where is your risk around your clients? Where is your risk around your preparedness? And where is your risk around your income? So if I use the example, first of all, maybe of skills, and maybe if you're listening to this, you could see these skills and just rate them 1 to 5, because you could obviously think, okay, what are the skills that make me successful in the industry I'm in? Have a list of those skills and then rate them 1 to 5. Like 1 is I suck at it, 5 is you're a golden god at it. So in the skills, we broke it down to 3 types of skills: technical skills, physical skills, and emotional skills. The technical skills that we used for personal trainers was an online skill. So your ability to be online and pivot to online. So some have got a 5, I nail that, I live online now. Some are a 1. They do it because they think they have to do it. They've got a social media account, but they don't know what they're doing. They're just posting willy-nilly. Then we had a technical skill around programming. So can you actually program in a way that gets people a result, basic point of entry to PT, but also program in a way that is motivating and engaging and designs exercise experiences that people want to do.
And part of that must be about relevancy as well, right? So if I think about that for hospitality and I'm saying, so what are the key technical skills that you need? And it might be that you say, well, you can bake a great cake. But if what you're baking is like your grandma's fruit cake, there's no market for that anymore. So it's not just were you a good baker once, it's are you continually updating your skills to be able to bake what the market's interested in. And that will translate across multiple industries and multiple fields.
Yeah, definitely. And then if we use baking as an example, when that cupcake industry took off and just everyone was doing cupcakes, like cafes could ride that wave if they were flexible enough and started to bring that in. So it was being influenced by online influencers and other businesses, but they could also bring that into their business and take advantage of that. And then we had a technical skill around presenting, and we talked about why that was so important. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we built the 30-Minute Presenter program. It's because those skills of presenting, being able to articulate your thoughts, being able to design a presentation, being able to present it well, are fundamental not only to the fitness industry and the way that you build your skill set around that, but also to every industry. Like we've often said, if you have a couple of people and you can't decide which one to hire, just hire the best communicator, hire the best writer, hire the best presenter, because really that skill set will be the one that takes them all the way and the one that's the most useful.
Oh, so true. My beautiful sister Kyla is a teacher in Auckland, and she was sharing with me that she shared her last words with her students before they went to their exams. She said she got a bit emotional and some of them got a bit emotional too. She's an English teacher, and what she was ultimately saying to them was that words are all we have. That we can communicate with actions and gesture and cuddles and physical touch, but that's not always appropriate in a work context. So your ability to use the words you have, put them together in a particular way, is one of those things that will rocket you to success no matter what industry you're in and what it is that you are doing. And she was talking about the power of words. And she's obviously thinking about a filter through literature and art. And but I see that in business all the time. People with really great intention who actually then just talk shit or say the wrong thing. So that's an example where you go, are you able to grow and develop that skill? Because that de-risks you.
Yeah, that's right. And then we had physical skills. So for a PT, their athletic performance in a certain genre of training. If you're a bodybuilder, look like a bodybuilder. If you're a runner, be a great runner. That's something you need to work on. Your health is a skill. It is a skill. You're investing in yourself, and you should be trying to get the best health that you are managing or that you are capable of, given your situation. And then your endurance and your fitness, that's a skill as well. There's a discipline that comes to that. And then we go from physical skills to emotional skills, your mental health, your resilience, your drive. Those are skills that you can work on, that you can rate yourself on the scale of 1 to 5, and then figure out maybe, well, my mental health isn't as good as it ought to be. I need to work on that. It's affecting my resilience. And do I have the drive to get up early, stay up late, create that business on the side as a side hustle? So breaking down those skills and understanding where your risk might sit within those skills is a useful activity, because at the end of the day, if you do want to create a new business, or you needed to start your business again and you didn't have the physical health, the mental health, the resilience, the drive, it's just not there, that's a risk. That's a risk. So the other one talked about for these fitness professionals was income and the risk around their income. And we split it into the 3 categories again, which was diversity, liquidity, and assets. So diversity is...
Oh, I love it when you talk dirty to me. Diversity, liquidity, assets.
You like the big words. So with diversity, we're talking about other avenues that you have for creating income. So for a personal trainer, there is PT that you do one-on-one, face-to-face. Then there was the difference between live and online, so your ability to be able to pivot. And then we talked about product as a specific one, something you can create once and sell often, something that might be just ticking away in the background and giving you income. Because if you were working 30 hours a week as a personal trainer and you were earning, let's say, $80 an hour, and then you decide you want to get some more money, well, you could do another 10 hours at $80 an hour, or you could look at doing another 10 hours and try to earn more money or earn different money for the use of that time, because you really start to weigh up the diversity. Because if the gym burns down tomorrow and all of your training has been face-to-face in the club with your clients,
all of your clients die in the fire,
and all of them were in the fire.
Oh, that's got grim really fast.
Grim really quick. Yeah, if the place that you train at burns down tomorrow and that's your only thing, then it takes you a long time to pivot out of that. But if only 50% of your income was derived from that, and 50% was from product online, from assets, from investments, that's completely different.
And this is totally true. You think about all the people that run design businesses, or they consult on strategy. Anybody that's dealing with clients, we talk a lot about diversifying the risk by saying, even if you have one main client, you've got to spend a bit of your week cultivating other clients too, because you are too exposed if one person is the sole source, or one company is the sole source of your income. They will eventually tire of you, or they will hire internally to replace you, and then you get stuck. If you're working for an organization, and you might be in sales, you might be in administration, if you think about how that business works and you go, well, we're only successful because we sell these 3 things, it's worth having a conversation with the people around you in the business to say, hey, should we be diversifying what it is that we offer and what it is that we sell? Because that in itself becomes a bit of a rainy day insurance policy. And I think it's worth reflecting on too, people's different risk profiles. So I'm really blessed to be married to my husband, Chris. He is a financial genius, by which I mean he knows that when money comes into the bank, it's not compulsory to release it into the economy the next day. Whereas that's the approach that I take. I'm just like, well, I don't need it, so I should, I don't know if you know this, but you can take your money and you can turn it into things. And I am amazing at that. Yeah. And it's not just things that I buy things for other people. I'm not being a blow ass when I say I have a reputation for being generous to some people in a way that Chris is like, how many families are we feeding? That's not, I'm not suggesting that I'm singularly feeding them, but I'm like, well, why wouldn't I? I don't need it. But in actual fact, the freedom that I have to be a little bit frivolous in my giving to others comes from the fact that he provides such a solid base of holding on to the money in case we need it for a rainy day. And if you think about when I was diagnosed with cancer and stopped working for a period of time, we had medical insurance. And I remember at the time going, oh, having cancer is terrible. But I hope it's a bad enough cancer that I qualify for medical insurance. And it was. And so we got this like lump sum payment. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was enough money that I could literally go to the bookshop and buy a stack of books. I went and bought a really expensive pair of silk pajamas because I knew that I was going to be spending weeks in bed.
Yeah.
And the freedom to be able to do that was amazing. And we only had that medical insurance because of his approach of being careful and, and cautious. And so I think, recognizing the way that you relate to money is also important. I've always thought, oh, well, if I lose this job, I'll just get another one.
Yeah.
Like there's a, what I like to think of a delightful naivety there, right?
Yeah.
But in actual fact, if I was on my own, jeepers, I'd probably be screwed. Yeah. So you've got to recognize that within yourself. So one of my biggest risks is that Chris will leave me. Don't go, babe. I mean, why would I bother? He's not listening to this.
Well, that's where you have a plan B.
So please buy for yourself or someone else our new 30-minute presenter program, because that's my plan B.
Yeah, if Chris leaves Sasha, she needs a slush fund. But really, the slush fund, liquidity, is really what we're talking about. Access to cash in the bank. It doesn't have to be under a mattress. We're not talking about, shoving money under there, but we're talking about a cash runway. And that really is the game at the moment for businesses. So smart businesses are going, when is the next lockdown? Or how do I prepare for the next lockdown? Smart businesses prepared for this lockdown by having more cash available for them to pay staff, pay creditors, run their business, hold their business, whatever it is. They had that money there. And we talked about this with personal trainers. We said, you will be in a completely different position and mindset with your business if you had 12 weeks of savings available to be able to pay your personal expenses or live on. And really, we just put that in as a target, like something for them to kind of work towards, because otherwise, when the next thing happens and suddenly the government don't have a handout for a wage subsidy that you can kind of tap into, you're under massive financial pressure, as opposed to the trainer that's maybe got funds available. And I know businesses now talk about cash runway. How much money do we need in the bank now, as opposed to previous thinking, which was, let's not have too much money in the bank because it actually doesn't serve us. Let's have that invested and operating within our business. And then just quickly on the last two, clients is another one. So do you have a database of your clients, like a really good database, or is it just all social media? Because if Facebook changed their rules tomorrow and your entire database is just followers on social media and you don't have email contacts for those people, well, that's your database gone. That's a massive risk for your business. Your client's actual versus your client's future. So do you have people that are investing and buying from you now? And do you have a list of people that want to buy from you in the future that you're kind of giving free information to, or basically building relationships with?
That's the caffeine and the fluffy, right?
Caffeine and the fluffy.
A little bit at a time.
I like that.
Well, that's how you get them hooked, right? Get them hooked early.
I'm looking at you in such a different light today. That's evil genius. I bet you their fluffies, though, aren't going to burn the skin off the roof of their mouth.
That's extra. You pay extra for that.
And then we talked about risk around relationships, like your friends, your family, your business. Have you got strong relationships with people so that if things get under pressure, that you can draw on those relationships? Have you got great relationships with your staff? So when things get tough, you can ask them to do more or stretch or adjust. And then we looked at risk around your network. Is your entire network just industry-based? Are you having the same conversations with the same people all the time?
Let me share a really interesting stat with you that I was recently learnt at a place that I went to overseas that I'm not going to name. Because apparently it bores some people to hear about it.
Have you been somewhere?
Say
Okay.
nothing. Say
So we're
nothing.
not talking about it.
I've been overseas. One of the things that came out was looking at when star performers move industries or companies, and so they need really good networks. How well are they able to survive in new environments? So let's say you've been a top salesperson at telecommunications company X, and you move across to telecommunications company Y. How able are you to flourish in a new environment? There was a really interesting difference in genders, and men found it much harder when they changed to a new company, and women didn't find it as hard. And I mean, naturally, I just had presumed it's because women are superior in almost every aspect of life.
As you would.
But in actual fact, what it came down to was that when you get into higher levels of performance in an organisation, unfortunately, it's still a reasonably gendered environment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were a guy at Telco X, you probably had a bunch of guys in your team around you. And so your support networks tend to be internal. So you're the group of guys that go for a Friday night drink. You might play golf on a Sunday. There might be a company fishing trip. Maybe you go tramping. And there's all these kind of masculine gendered activities that guys can bond through and doing in their workplace, right? For women, many senior women and successful women are reasonably isolated. And so their support networks are built outside of their companies.
Right.
So it might be that a senior leader in the telco is also friends or builds network with senior leaders in other companies. So when you move companies, you don't lose your entire support network overnight. And I think that's something that's really useful to think about. Many of us go, oh, we have so many mentors and coaches. If they are all coming from the same place and you cut that umbilical cord with that organization or with that industry, do you have a network anywhere else that's of any use to you? And I share this with you as an idea because this one hit me between the eyes, and that is that the future comes in daily doses. The future comes in daily doses. So if you're listening to any of this risk stuff and you're going, well, yes, my network is a bit shonky, but that's okay because I'll sort it when I need it in the future. You can't just wake up one morning and go, oh, I need a bit of network. It takes time to build.
Yeah.
And you have to start now on some activities on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, because otherwise in 5 years' time, you'll go, oh, I still haven't done anything about it yet because it feels like a future project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think when you start looking at that and kind of go, okay, so I need to start building my connections and my network now, but you also need to look at what value am I adding? So that
it's not a take.
Yeah.
So what do I bring?
Exactly, because there's enough people out there taking, but, being able to give, being able to add value to situations, being able to do that is a skill in itself, and understanding what your superpower is, what your skill set, what do you bring, what can you give that's part of any risk assessment, is understanding that too.
When you think about your family risk and your friendship risk, Stephen Covey talks about your emotional cookies and spending and earning brownie points, right? So are you taking the time on a regular basis to invest in the relationships that matter? Because if you are just being an energy vampire or you're ghosting people and not spending the time, when you need those people, they're absolutely entitled to not be there for you if you haven't done anything to grow and develop that relationship over time, right?
Yeah.
I spoke at an event last night, and there were a couple of old colleagues that I haven't spoken to for a while. They happened to be on the call. Straight away when the call finished, one of them sent me a text message just saying, hey, great talk, really love to hear from you, rock on. Wow, that is so smart, man. Just 30 seconds it would have taken him to send that message. It actually makes a difference, just that momentary. And you know what? If he rings and says, hey, Sasha, I need a favour, can you come and do this thing? Guess what I'm going to say? Hell yes. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah, exactly. It's those small investments. That's great. Great advice, Sash. So the other category we had was preparedness. So how organized are you? What are your routines and what's your contingency plan? So organized.
Are you a lazy bones? That's what I heard you say.
Yeah, that's it. Are you organized? Do you have good structures around your time? Do you protect your time? Do you invest your time? Do you have good business practices? How long does it take you to do something? Do you have really good efficiency in your filing systems? Can you find things easily? Because as we talked about the other week, if you're spending a lot of time just trying to find stuff or a lot of time doing things that aren't productive with your time, then, well, that's not helping you. That's a risk.
That's a little bit silly.
That's a little bit silly, yeah. And then your routines, personal development, do you constantly do? That's one thing you do really well. You just read and read and read and upskill, and have you got good routines around just your physical training? Is that something that you've got in on a regular basis? And then have you thought about the contingencies? Well, what if this happens? And we talked about that in the Plan It and Prepare. You can't plan for things to happen, like events that might disrupt you, but you can prepare for them. And it might even be worth just really quickly touching on some business disruption. I love your point before, disrupt yourself before you are disrupted. But by at least framing up possibly some of the types of business disruptions that can come, it might allow you to start thinking about, well, what would you do in that case?
You should just think about living in New Zealand, which is an island in the Pacific at the bottom of the world, just slightly above Antarctica, and say, what could possibly go wrong? Oh, earthquakes. Oh, volcanic eruptions. Oh, global pandemic. Oh, massacres. Oh, right, all that stuff has happened in the reasonably, recent future within New Zealand. And the fact that we're at the bottom of the world means we're low down the list for the supply chain. People aren't rushing to send their products to us. We don't have enough people to even qualify as a major city in our entire country. So it's not even a case for me of saying what could go wrong. It's almost a case of saying what can't go wrong.
Yeah, true.
What might stay solid? What might stay consistent? Now, think about all the things. I love thinking about if I lost some key people.
Yes.
What would that look like?
Yeah.
And am I behaving in a way that would encourage those people to stay?
Yeah.
Am I doing enough to keep them? I think that's a great question to ask if you're an employer.
Yeah. And even with the current environment of COVID, like we're looking at, well, what do we do if someone gets COVID in a club and then suddenly 2 of the staff are a close contact and have to isolate for 7 days? And then I guess 7 days is kind of what they say, but what if they live with 4 or 5 other people and then they've got COVID and then that person gets affected, then they get COVID and then the next person gets COVID and suddenly the long tail and that person is out for not 7 days, but a series of weeks. I mean, that's a real risk. So how do you wrap contingency around your most important people? Which positions can work from home and how would you leverage that? So all of those things are thinkings that you need to start to apply to business disruption or event disruption.
I reckon one of the things that we all learned in the Christchurch earthquake, which is so silly when you think about it, is that back in the day, lots of our phones needed power to work because we had landlines, but we had those portable landlines. So you plug it in so that you can pick it up and walk with it around your house. Then when the power went, if you hadn't charged your cell phone recently, you had no communication mechanism. Yeah. And I know one of the things that people do now is they have backup power supplies. They make sure that their cell phone batteries are charged. I mean, these are little small examples, but writ large, we were talking the other day about Auckland, our biggest city in New Zealand. It had no power for a period of time in the late 90s. And you go, that's just crazy.
Yeah.
A couple of generators blew up and it was like, wow.
Oh, totally. How
does that work?
Well, even like big businesses now, they can't just be going, oh, well, I hope we don't get cyber attacked. I was
going to say cybersecurity is huge, right?
Huge, because every business knows they need to have some backups that aren't in the cloud. Like, how are they backing stuff up? So if someone does cyber attack them and corrupt all of their businesses, at least they can reset it 24 hours or whatever it is. That is much less risk than the business that just goes, well, I hope it doesn't happen to me.
I think a small business, we're so vulnerable because so much of our IP is in people's heads. So if you go, well, when I can't sleep, I do this exercise where I just kill everyone in our team. I mean, I've creative ways of how they die. I don't mean I've killed them. I mean something happens to them. Yeah. And I say, if that person was hit by a bus tomorrow, what are the operating systems in our business that only they know how to do? And there's heaps.
Totally.
Who owns the supply relationship? You think that your suppliers are selling to Les Mills or they're selling to Coffee Culture. Often they're selling to the person in your business who handles that relationship. And if that person leaves you, so does this. You know what? There's risk everywhere.
There's risk everywhere.
What am I doing?
I know. Well, even in, like, if you think about your partner, if they're the ones that always pay the bills online, and they're the ones that know the passwords to all the things, and then something happens to them, what do you do? Yeah.
I've said this to my parents, right? It's like, Mum, you have to know the bank password. The banks won't give you the details until probate comes after somebody dies, and that can be weeks and months, and who needs that stress?
Yeah, absolutely. So
can I tell you something real cute?
Yeah.
I know we're late on time, but you know when I was in home ISO, and I stayed at Mum and Dad's house.
Yeah.
I've been on at them for years about, tell us, when you have your funeral, what do you want to do? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? We need to talk about this stuff while you're still well. Let's talk about it. Let's be adults, be mature about it. And it makes them uncomfortable, and I get it. We're talking about them dying. Anyway, I opened Mum's drawer, and I found this little list, and it's got funeral songs.
Oh.
Mum, funeral songs, Dad. They've obviously had the chat to make sure there's no clashes. They've sort of divided up the James Taylor and the Bob Dylan and who gets what. So cute. Hope you're not listening, Mum. I haven't confessed this yet. But there you go. I thought that was great. Thank you for doing that. And I hope that those occasions are 40 years from now.
Yeah.
But I love that we'll know.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So as we kind of wrap it up, there's 4 types of business disruptions to kind of be aware of, more than 4 types, but the ones that we mainly talk about. So sustaining innovation, being able to basically create a better version of a product, and you should be constantly doing this. Make a better version of what you do and sell it to your best customers. Like, constantly be improving on your own product, your own service, because that keeps you in the game. So when other people are coming in to compete with you, they're competing with the best of you, not the memory of you. Low-end disruption, people come and find a way to do what you do cheaper. Suddenly a coffee place opens up and starts selling banging coffee for $2, and everybody starts loving it, and they just want to go there. That puts a massive pressure back on coffee shops. Absolutely.
And they have to go and poo into their water supply.
Exactly. I like how you went straight.
Is that wrong?
To pooing in the water supply. So if you run a coffee business and all of a sudden your water has a funny taste, email Sasha. Okay. New market disruption. What's going to come into your market and just disrupt you that you haven't even thought about it, and take away some of your customers that aren't quite satisfied with what you've got, or open up a completely new market that you're not tapping into. And then, of course, event disruption, global financial crisis, the day that bat punched humanity in the face, that kind of stuff happens. And if there's one thing I've learned, life is not fair and stuff happens. So the conversation, as much as it is about surviving now, it is about preparing for the next thing, because the next thing is coming. And if you have good preparation in place, good risk mitigation, you'll be able to ride that wave. And as awkward as it is, as difficult as it is, as painful as it is, if you survive, adapt and pivot, you will take advantage of the new opportunity that comes.
Preach.
All right, I've enjoyed that today, Sars, talking about risk and mitigation. And actually, one of the ways to mitigate your risk and really just prepare your skill sets and invest in yourself is to buy the 30-minute presenter program, available and produced by Sasha and Ish on the Not So Breakfast Show. So click in the link in our bio, go to our Instagram page, the link is there for you, and I will put the link in the show notes, which we're not doing anymore, we're just putting links in there. So click on that link. It'd be the best investment of the year for you, I reckon.